are listening to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast, a place to empower women of color in the music business.
Welcome to another episode of Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. This is your host, Janisha Jones, back with another special guest. Today, we have Adrienne Reeves. Adrienne is a film and music creative hailing from Atlanta and recently moved to the West Coast. I have had the pleasure of getting connected to Adrienne as we're both women of color in hailing from the sync world. She just exudes big boss energy, so I know I had to have her on the show. So without further ado, Adrienne, welcome to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Thank you so much for having me. I must say you have like a really incredible voice. Like you have the voice for this. I didn't even realize until you just did the intro. I was like, oh, I'm tuned in.
That. I need to monetize that. Thank you. So let's just get right into it. Tell us about your journey through the music industry and what roles led you to becoming a film creative.
Sure. So I guess I'll take it all the way back to when I was younger. I pretty much did everything under the sun. I played the trumpet in the band. I performed in the theater. I used to sing at every talent show. And then one day I realized that I can't sing. Like I can't hold a note to save my life. And nobody wanted to tell me. I had to learn the hard way. So that was heartbreaking, but I really wanted to be a star. I was like, I'm better than Beyonce. But that inspired me to want to learn more about the business. So fast forward, I got my marketing degree from Georgia State University, which is downtown Atlanta. I learned everything about marketing and advertising and absolutely fell in love with how to allocate a budget and how to target your audience and coming up with types of difference of content and things of that sort. So got my first position interning at the radio station with Hot 107.9 and the Dirty Boys in Atlanta. I learned all about programming and promotions, and we put on a ton of events. We did Birthday Bash every year, and working there is where I met one of my mentors, Tammy Luttrell, who I believe you had on the show.
Shout out to
yes, shout out to Tammy. Love Tammy. She's helped me tremendously in my career. It's a whole nother story, but shout out to her. So moved up from the radio station to go work at Mean Streets and Atlantic Records with DJ Drama. Did multiple marketing campaigns for their artists, met a ton of people there. Soon moved up to work at a publishing company called Streamcut, which is over at Doppler Studios in Buckhead. And being there was definitely a turn in my career because the team was just so small. And, you know, we pretty much we were doing everything. We had a roster of probably like 200 plus artists, producers, influencers. And, you know, because our team was so small, we got to dip and dab into every department, whether that was publishing or distribution or studio management or marketing or A&R. And so being there is when I kind of got heavy into A&Ring and working with producers and songwriters and setting up sessions for different projects and placements and things of that sort. And I would say being there, I definitely learned how to work under really tight deadlines. I learned that you can plan stuff all day long and you can probably think or guess that something's going to go wrong. So just having that mindset in mind, like when you're planning a rollout or you're on a press run or anything like that, just always plan for something to go wrong and know how to roll with the punches, know how to keep a poker face and know how to come up with a solution instead of complaining. So that's one thing I learned. And I would say the highlight of that, working on Mulatto at the time, she was Miss Mulatto when I worked with her, but we helped kind of rebrand her into Mulatto, which I think now she goes by Lotto. Yeah. But we put the Bitch from the South record. Yeah, shout out to her. But we put out the Bitch from the South record, which was a song that really took her to the next level. It, you know, placed on the Billboard Top 100, certified platinum. There's a remix with Trina and Sweetie. So it's really, really cool to say that I was a part of, like, you know, helping to cultivate her career. So now, after I left Streamcut, I decided to do my own thing and start my own publishing company called Versa, and we pretty much help independent writers and producers get major placements that they otherwise would need a major publisher for. So I would say our biggest client for sure is Zeus Network, and so they're a Black-owned network based out here in LA, and those guys are incredible. They really put me in a position to really just help put other people in a position, and I'm so grateful for that. So outside of that, I also work at Universal, which is really like, I would say, my first kind of jump into working on major films. I knew it was something that I always wanted to do, and so I would say that I definitely manifested and created all of this. And being there now, thank you. Being there now, we are working on Jordan Peele's Nope, which comes out this.
Gosh. I saw the preview for that the other day. I'm like, oh my goodness.
It's funny. I feel like he's the type of person to drop a preview and you still don't even know what the movie's about.
It is a little perplexing, but at the same time, it's Jordan Peele. It's going to be some kind of like psychological thriller.
Definitely. So super, super excited about that. We're working on a number of projects, really excited about. Yeah, I'm really just taking a deep dive and learning the LA culture here and navigating this corporate world. And it's been incredible, honestly.
That's a wonderful journey. I feel like you've touched on like so many different facets of the music industry, and that just makes you even more valuable as an executive, so kudos to you, girl. Like, to keep, yourself interested in multiple aspects of the industry. I think that is amazing. You were talking a little bit about your mentors in those spaces, but can you tell us how crucial were your mentors in coming up in the business? And if you can tell us a little bit about what you've learned from them.
Sure. I would say having a mentor is super crucial, just because when you're coming up, you're learning and you don't know everything. And so if you come across someone who you just have great rapport with, you have a great bond with, and that person is genuine and they're doing things that you aspire to do, it's all about learning. It's all about learning and being open enough and being humble enough to understand, like, I don't know everything. Hey, I have a question. What do you think about this? It's not necessarily about how that person can connect you to somebody else, but it's really just about learning, I would say. And then in turn, in the bigger picture, figuring out how you can bring that back around. Like, once you do get to that level, okay, this person helped me, I want to help them. Now I'm in a position, so I want to give back to them, but also continue to bring that back down, bring that back around. Like, this person helped me, I want to help this person. So I would say having a mentor is super crucial. I have multiple mentors, and even like the people I do business with who might have more money than me or might have more things going on, like, I'll ask questions. I feel like we tend to be in a culture now where people try to one up you and people try to, take sauce. And it's like, no, we can do this together. We can collaborate. You have something to bring to the table. I have something to bring to the table. It doesn't have to be, oh, let me just do everything by myself. And I think something I had to learn is like, being an Aries, we're very independent, but there's value in having a team. There's value in having a team. There's value, 3 brains is better than 1 or 2. So it's just all about like realizing that you don't have all the answers, and that's why there's other people around.
That is such a valid point. Like, we definitely need to do a better job. And I think this is something that we attest to mostly as women of color as well, learning to like take on all of the burden and all the hardship and wearing it and being the strong Black woman, right? But it's like, goddamn, I need some help. Like, you know what I mean? And to your point about needing to be more collaborative and create more collaborative spaces for us, there is enough room for everyone. Everyone does bring something unique to the table. And we have to learn how to see what it is that we uniquely bring and then say, hey, I'm not that strong at this. And can you help me with that? Because I see that's your lane. Like, being open to receiving is such a huge thing. I think that we need to learn more to do. So, I mean, completely agree with everything that you said.
Yeah. And it only makes you better for sure. You're only as great as the person next to you, or you're only as great as your team.
Exactly. And I love the fact that you said that you're also like paying it back. Like you're seeing the investments made into you and you're wanting to provide the same level of courtesy and consideration to the person that might be assisting you in whatever way that they can.
Definitely.
Because I feel like LA is one of those places that you don't necessarily get it back. You don't necessarily get the love back. So
I haven't experienced that here yet, and hopefully I won't have to, but I've definitely come across those moments being in Atlanta, where you have an idea and you don't get told thank you, or somebody runs off with it and you don't get no credit, or you don't get hired, or you don't get paid, or I've definitely had many of those situations. So I think it's important to kind of go through those things first and then realize who you can trust and who you want to be a part of your circle.
Discernment is such a huge thing, and I'm still struggling with that because I feel like back to Aries, like I feel like we're very generous and giving of our
We're so
energy.
trusting.
That it's like we don't, and sometimes we don't expect things back, but we do notice it when it's not given back. You're like, oh shoot, like, but it doesn't stop you from being a good person.
Yeah.
Still, you still feel like kindness is definitely something that it's free.
It's free.
Like, you know what I mean? It's actually easy to just be kind to somebody, but learning how to like preserve your energy as well and protect your space is something that I think I struggle with still, but we're learning. We're just trying to elevate out here.
Exactly.
All right. So there are so many challenges that are unique to women of color in the industry. Can you describe for us one specific challenge you've had to overcome?
Sure. So I think I would say generally one thing that I still kind of find myself struggling with, but I'm at a point where it doesn't bother me because I know my intention. But one thing that I've been struggling with is because I am a woman and because I am Black. And you could even throw in, the fact that I'm attractive. There's going to be an immediate like stereotype. I don't even know if stereotype is the word, but there's this thing that gets placed on me of like, if I look a certain way or if I speak a certain way, then, oh, I'm upset or I have an attitude or I'm mad and it's just like, nah, if I was mad, you would know. That would be the first thing I would say, So it's just like, because you're kind of like not having to walk on eggshells, but there's some caution that comes with how you carry yourself so that I guess you don't offend anyone. But at the same time, fuck that. If you're offended, that's on you. You know what I mean? Like that's not my intention. My intention isn't to offend you. My intention is just to be myself. And you take that how you kind of want to take it, and that's on you. And then I guess, and I guess there's another point too of like the people who are making these prejudgments don't even know me. It's
that's really the crucial part is like you're, especially in a professional setting, people are supposed to take you at face value, right?
Exactly.
I feel like white folks have the privilege of being able to just be in a room, show up as themselves, however that presents. It doesn't even have to be professional. They just show up as themselves, and they'll just be accepted in that way. But we have to walk in already cognizant or even hyper aware of what we're saying, how we're looking, who we're interacting with. It's kind of crazy the way that we're put in under a microscope from the minute we step into these settings. So I really do appreciate you saying to be authentic and allowing them to just have to learn how to accept us as we are. Yeah, we do have a little attitude, but guess what? That's why the culture just surrounds us. Why we're building the culture is because we're not bland. We do have
right. We're not gonna conform to what you think this person should be like. I think that's something that I'm still kind of just in between, like, okay, do I want them to be comfortable or do I want to be comfortable? That's
Oh,
kind of like a question.
I love that
Yeah.
you said that. Yes. That's
Yeah.
yeah, because sometimes you're conforming to or trying to code switch sometimes makes
Hmm.
you feel uncomfortable because you're like, that's not even really me. Like,
Exactly. And it's definitely can be a little forced, but sometimes I like to have fun with it because I love the thought of like being this mystery, like, oh, y'all think y'all know me, but y'all don't know shit about me. And
I
it's
love
just like
that.
even
Yeah.
so, like when people try you, like, you know what?
Mhm.
Had this been me last year, I would have, ooh, you know. But because I'm better and because I'm just not gonna give my energy towards certain things because you're just not worth it. I'm just
Mhm.
gonna let it slide. But then there's of course, like I don't want to let this slide too many times. So at
There's a
some point you
balance.
put your foot down. So it's about balancing and knowing and when to, picking and choosing your battles, I guess.
Absolutely. And I feel like the more that we feel empowered to show up as ourselves, the more that we are, in those leadership positions and we can see now, okay, this person, she's handling her business, but she's also being completely herself. That enables somebody else coming up in their shoes to say, hey, I'm gonna show
Exactly.
up as me too. Like it's accepted now and I can wear my hair like this. I can just how I want to dress. I can, you know, talk like the girl from Patterson, New Jersey. I don't gotta talk like I'm from Burbank. I
The
don't know. I don't know. I just threw that out there. Shout out to Burbank. I like y'all out there too. What would you say was your mama I made it moment where you realized that you were headed in the right direction and what characteristics do you attribute to having made it to that point?
Okay, so I got one moment that's not as serious, and then I have another one. So I, I told this story earlier to you today about that. I feel like there's so many moments, but off the top of my head, my first 6 days of moving to LA. It's so funny because when I told my mom about it, she born and raised in Atlanta. I've never left Georgia. My mom's always been there too, right up the street from me if I ever need anything. So this is
Shout
her
out to
first time.
mom.
Yeah, it's her first time her baby's, leaving or whatever. So she told me she cried. I was like, girl, what you crying
Mm.
for? You got like I'm dying. Like, this is good. So that was the whole thing. But obviously, I made the move for greater reasons.
Yeah.
But my first 6 days of being here, I was at an event and we had just left the studio. And there was an event at this bowling alley. It was a private event, super exclusive. Everyone was just bowling, having a good time, and tons of Black people. There's always this thing about there's no Black people out here. There's plenty of Black people out here. Crazy. But, there's all these different well known people in the room. And I look over and it's Chris Brown. I'm like, is that Christopher? And so lo and behold, it's him, just bowling, hanging out, no security with, got some girls with him, of course. And he's literally bowling in the lane next to mine.
Wow.
And so in this moment, I'm just like, I got to say something to him. I've worked with him indirectly before, and I've always had that on my list to work with him. And it's like, here I am. And who gets to
60
say,
moment.
who gets to say that they were in the room with Chris? So I went up to him, he gave me a hug, spoke very briefly. We made eye contact. I know this all sounds crazy, but it was great. It was an incredible moment for sure.
Icon, so I understand. Yeah.
Especially growing up listening to Chris, going to all his concerts. So my
Right.
mom is a person who would understand that. So I called her and I was like, Mama, guess who I saw at this party? And she was like, Drake. And I was like, no, that's a good guess though. And she was like, CB.
Oh, that is mom's, right? That's what mom all day. She knew from the beginning. She said, "Oh,
Oh my God. I was like, we died laughing. I was like, yes, Chris Brown, Breezy. And she was like, wow. Just because like she was taking me to his concert when I was like 10. So it's just
wow."
like, it's just crazy. So that was a moment for
And that
sure.
happened 6 days after you moved.
6 days of me being in LA, literally
That's
6 days.
confirmation that you're where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you for that. But
Mhm.
definitely, so that was also a really cool moment. But I would say another moment was seeing my name in credits on TV credits for the first time.
Yeah.
So for that, so that was with a Zeus Network, who I mentioned earlier. It took me some years to build that relationship and to get to that point. But as I was doing it, I had no clue that it would lead to one, me helping, 20 plus creators land their first TV placement. And then two, is seeing my name in the credits, like along in the same credits as these other
Right.
well-known seasoned individuals who have been doing this longer than I've been born. So it's just really cool. You get the recognition and the
Yeah.
flowers, and I can definitely attribute that to a good friend of mine who actually they were the ones who introduced me to Lemio, who's the CEO of Zeus. And I was just so grateful to have such a close relationship with him that he always spoke highly of me. And so when he met Lemio, he all he did was talk about me, and he spoke highly of me. And so
Love that.
when we introduced, the introduction happened, it was just like it hit off immediately. And so now we are working on their fourth show within
Wow.
2 years. I was maybe a year and a half. Actually, it hasn't even been 2 years yet. But yeah,
That's
so
amazing. Yes, I
yeah,
mean, for one, like it's just a testament to saying people's names in the rooms that they might not be in, right? You were introduced to the CEO who then, off the strength of having already had these conversations, was comfortable to have conversation and build chemistry or synergy between the two of you so that you can partake in this project. So, and now like having the recognition is such a huge issue too. I feel this is one of those
exactly.
things that's kind of like I'm still learning how to go about it in terms of receiving recognition for your work. It's kind of like a two-way street, right? And on one hand, yes, you need to put in the work. Yes, you need to sometimes outshine the people that you're working with for that recognition. But then on the other hand, it's incumbent upon the people that are giving you the space to even say, hey, tap into this project that, hey, I recognize what you did here and let me go ahead and give you the credit you deserve for it. And I feel like sometimes those gatekeepers, they're kind of blind spotted, like they're so involved in whatever things that they need to do that they don't really see the people that are behind the scenes actually making the things happen for them.
For
So
sure.
I'm glad that that's happened for you, that you actually did get the credit that you deserve for the work that you put in. As Black women or women of color in the music industry, we need to do a better, I don't even say do a better job, but be more cognizant of advocating for ourselves and saying, hey, I contributed this to this project. And that recognition is not just about like fame or acknowledging me. Yes, that's part of it too, but it's also about representation.
Yeah,
Also
for sure.
about saying like there's other girls out here in the tech world, other women of color. I'm speaking from my point of view because I'm in tech, right? But other women of color in this space who deserve recognition. So love that for you, but we
For sure.
definitely need to, empower each other to step up
Definitely.
and make it known like, yeah, yeah, I did this.
Definitely. And even then too, like I work with a ton of different creators, and they're always just like, oh my God, thank you so much. Da, da, da. And it's like, I'm nothing without y'all, it's a two-way street. Like you said
Yeah.
earlier, like you guys put in the work, and I'm just here to set it up to where we can all
Yes.
win. And
I
so
love
I
that.
just wanted
Yes.
to, yeah,
Definitely a team effort. Yeah, you get out what you put in, or you're supposed to.
exactly. Exactly, for sure.
So, what advice would you give other aspiring women of color in the music business?
First, I would say don't take anything personal. that mindset alone will take you far. It'll keep you out of your feelings. It'll keep you from looking stupid. It'll keep you from losing opportunities, knowing that this is strictly business. And even though there might be times where people are being personal, don't even acknowledge it, don't play into it, don't go to the internet trying to blast people. That's just going to hurt your chances even more. And people are always going to have their opinions about this and that. And nobody really knows the story, So just to prevent all of that, don't take anything personal. Just roll with the punches and continue to feed into what feeds into you. Then I would say don't burn bridges. I think maybe not taking stuff personal and not burning bridges might can tie together. But there's been times where I wanted to really just curse someone out because of something they might have done, or it could be anything. And so I think don't burn bridges, even like with peers that I've had, right, who might be on a higher level than me. We might have started out the same, but now they might be a higher level than I am. And I might ask them for something and they might act totally Hollywood. And it's, I could be that person and be like, oh, really, bro? Like you was a shit last year. You was just doing this. I could be that person. Then it's like, well, then that
She was like the
relationship.
bitter person, like, oh shit, she mad.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, you don't want to burn that bridge because you just never know when you might need someone down the line. And vice versa. Like hold yourself to a standard to where, again, you don't take anything personal to where you feel like you want to burn a relationship with somebody just because of the way they treated you. Because when you do level up and when you do reach that position, that's enough. When you do reach that amount of success, let the work speak. Don't feel the need to say something in that moment or right now, but just let the work speak for itself.
Bars, because that is tough for me.
Yes, and it always comes back around, even like, so being from Atlanta, South Side, like Clayton County, it's a lot of gangs. It's a lot of people just always are just haters, undercover haters. Sometimes they're haters to your face, but I've seen it multiple times as I've like grown in my career and I'm doing all these different things. I've had people reach out to me who like, I'm not friends with you, girl. Like, we not cool. Like, they'll reach out like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I love you. And it's just like, thank you. Thank you.
This is the first time anyone's actually said that on the podcast, so I appreciate you for that. It's happened sometimes. It's like awkward, like when people that you never had a relationship with this person, but yet they're like, hey, I'm so like you like to receive it, like yes, thank you for your support, but also like I don't know you, and don't pretend like you know me just because you knew me from school or like 20 years ago. Had like a birthday party and invited me, and I was like 7. Like, come on.
Yeah. Like, and I think that goes to show too that when you're kind, right? Because we said kindness is free.
Yeah.
When you're kind and you're genuine and you're authentic, people are gonna recognize that. And sometimes people try to take that away from you. They try to make you look like a certain type of person, but at the end of the day, they'll always come back around and try to befriend you and try to see if you'll respond. And it's like, that goes to show that you're a great person and they know that. They know that.
I like how you pivoted from that. I appreciate that. You brought it right back to the positive. Yes. I like that. Totally, yeah. Don't burn bridges, especially because this industry is small and word gets around town very quickly. So unless you want to ruin your own reputation, just don't do that. Like, take everything with grace. And at the same time, I mean, one of the things that helps me, because I am someone that might overthink the response from someone, like, why would they talk to me like that? Why would they say that to me? Like, why would they address me like that? But it's not about you. Sometimes, people are going through their own things. everyone, just extend everyone grace. We're all trying to do the best that we can. And so
Right.
that's what I tell myself when I'm in those moments of like, God dang, like they really just tried me. It's not about you, sis. It's all right.
That's a great point. That's a great point because even then, I've had people who are really close to me like go off on me, and I'm like, dang, I was just trying to help you, but then just come back and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I was just going through something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
You
know,
never know. And actually, your mentor, Tammy, echoed that in the second episode of this podcast. She
yeah.
said, hey, you don't know what people are going through. You
Mhm.
don't know what they're going through. And you might be in a cranky mood and you say something off color to someone. You're having to be the one to say, hey, my bad. That wasn't for you. That wasn't meant
Right.
for you. So, totally. If there was anything that you could have done differently in regards to pursuing your career, whether it was like being at the wrong place or mismanagement, missed opportunity, what would that have been? And what would you tell your younger self?
If I could, so I wouldn't change the journey, but if I could do anything differently, I would say I definitely would have started sooner. I don't know why age is such a big thing in this industry, but I do understand though, as an executive and as you start to get older, people respect you more. I always think about like, "Ugh, why didn't I do this when I was in college? Or, well, I always think about like, what the hell was I doing leading up to this point? And I think I was just figuring it out, like what I wanted to do. And I think
Mhm.
that's really important is like knowing what you want. That's the first step, right? Knowing what you
Yeah.
want and then figuring out how to get there, figuring out how to make that happen. And I feel like that's something a lot of people are battle with is like they don't really know what they want, or maybe they're afraid to go after it. So I would just tell my younger self to, have fun, but also know what you want. Don't have any fear of anything and don't wait on anybody. Don't wait for
Oh,
anything, any type of validation. Make it happen for yourself.
don't wait for anyone. It's your
It's
life.
your life.
And everyone has a journey, and you might want, I know we have a tendency to want everyone to be happy with what we're doing, but frankly, it's you should be happy. You need to be happy.
Exactly.
So do what you got to
Exactly.
do for you.
Do what you got to do for you and utilize your resources. I think people are always chasing and chasing but it's like I feel like we don't realize that what we're looking for is probably already within our possession. It's already in front
Yeah.
of us. So it's just
Oh,
like taking the time to take a step back and reflect on that. And for me, I love like writing stuff down. I feel like there's a huge power in writing. And so like reflect on those things, right? Reflect on what you've accomplished, reflect on what you could have did differently, reflect on what you learned, any experience or just that day. I feel like that helps to guide you to where you need to go next and just figuring out how to get there. Did I answer the question? I feel like I'm just
yeah.
rambling.
I think you have. You said you wish you had started sooner because of the way that people respect you as you climb the ladder, as you have more experience in the industry. That's with any industry, I think that's certainly the case. And knowing what you want is probably the inhibitor to moving in that direction and the fear aspect of it too, being afraid to move forward. But a lot of it is the societal expectations that are placed on women and then the extra compounded expectations that are put on women of color. Culturally, I feel like we're still battling with the narrative of do we want to be self-sufficient and we want to be independent and we want to make sure that we're living our best lives, but at the same time there's a lot of emphasis on what is our relationship status and what is it that we're doing to prove our worthiness within relationships and having to compromise careers for being a mother or expectations that are placed on us, which again just speaks more to your point about not waiting. This is a trigger for me. Just I actually sacrificed a relationship to pursue my career, and I'm sure that's a lot of people's stories too, but that's why I'm so like gung ho on driving this home.
Yeah. It's such a tough conversation because you do have to sacrifice a lot. You sacrifice time, you sacrifice money, you sacrifice going out with friends, you sacrifice sleep. There's so much. And even with the relationship aspect, because I love being in relationships. I'm definitely a lover girl. I'm always in a relationship, but I'm kind of at a point in my life I've spent a lot of time alone, and I'm dealing with that and I'm adjusting to it because it's something that I've noticed that I'm not used to. It's a conversation because you're working hard to have a foundation for your family and to take care of others. It's weird because like I'm sacrificing this relationship, but I also want to share these moments and these experiences with somebody. I want to share the wealth. I want to share the success. I don't want to be at the top by myself. So it's like I feel like
it's a balancing act.
It's a balance. It's a balance, and I think you just got to figure out like what works for you. For sure, yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about what it means to sacrifice to get what it is that you want out of your career, and I feel like there's a lot that can be said too about just culturally the expectations placed on women of color in the industry. We tend to be the ones that are outperforming our constituents. We tend to be the ones last one in the office, last one making sure that all the things are I's are dotted, T's are crossed in the project, and if you're in a leadership position, the success of a project tends to, fall on your shoulders. So, and then being the only woman for a lot of these projects and a lot of the times being the only woman in the studio or in the boardroom, it's a lot to take on. So managing a romantic situation takes on a life of its own. And it doesn't tend to be the traditional relationships that we end up being in because the person that you're with has to be extremely secure in themselves, and it's hard to find. So
hard to find, especially in this age where social media age, and like you say, you just have to. That person has to be trusting and understanding of what you do, and sometimes that might require late nights in the studio, or it might require me having to travel for months at a time, and it's just like having that balance and having that communication and finding the right person.
we have a separate conversation about that, but
yeah,
it's something that I think a lot of us go through and don't really we don't have the spaces really to have those kinds of conversations. Like it's one thing to be, about being a boss and doing what you have to do for a project to work out the way that it needs to, but then how that translates to in the home. Like we have to take that hat off, so to speak, and then become a docile, or I wouldn't even say docile, but you just need, like you said, find a partner that understands this is a different kind of lifestyle that you're living. Yeah. I mean, especially as you're climbing the ranks, and you have access to different kinds of people.
Yeah. And then having that person who respects that too, who doesn't treat you any less, but treats you like the boss or your queen that you are. They say leave your personal stuff at the door, but I feel like that does reflect your work. Your work. If things aren't going okay at home, that definitely has an effect on your work. And so just having that person who can be your peace, essentially, because that's what my home is, a place of peace, and so if
but you also want to be motivated at the same time. You want someone that's going to push you to be the best person that you can be in all facets of your life, so
definitely.
That's tough. I can't seem to find nobody that's like I'm struggling. Oh man, like I'm struggling. I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, I need to find someone that's in the industry because they'll understand the lifestyle. But then what tends to happen is, well, and this is not from having a lot of experience, but I'll say that what tends to happen is they want to contain your power. Like they want to own what it is that you're doing. And it's like, well, this isn't your lane.
Exactly.
Stay over there in that lane. Let me do this that I got to do over here. Or they'll try to, in my experience, diminish what it is that you've done. And it's like, well, no, that's not going to work for me either. Like, so.
That is the same. Red flag.
Flag on the plane, flag on the plane. Yeah, I mean, we don't really talk too much about romantic relationships on the show, but I think that's something that I might start to offer to the conversation because I feel like there are a lot of us that are making great money, and that dynamic changes the our romantic situations. And then just finding someone who can understand the lifestyle of someone being in entertainment is a whole thing in and of itself.
Right. Yeah. And to your point of like having the money and success, like that's cool, but I don't want to be alone. You know what I mean?
Yes, please, can you bring something to the table too? Like,
but I have faith because I've been single for a couple months now, and I have faith, obviously, with being in a new city and a new job, and there's a lot that I've been adjusting with, but I do have faith that the right person is out there, and I'll attract him. I'll attract him.
I'll pay for you, girl. It's a struggle for me. So. Anyway, let's move on. What are some common misconceptions that people have about women of color in the music industry?
I would say that a common misconception is that we're not as smart as people think that we are. I think people automatically they see us and they assume, oh, we're the girlfriend or we're the assistant, and it's like, no, I'm running this shit. Like this is my shit. And they assume that they can get over on you, or that you don't know the business, or you don't know about a contract that you might be reading. Or I've had people try to baby me about a topic that I'm very familiar with, and it's just like those common misconceptions. I feel like they lead to, especially if you're working on a team, I feel like that leads to a team's downfall, because it's like, okay, you brought me on board to be an expert in this field. And so when I give you an opinion, or I give an idea, or if I say, oh, we should pivot this way instead of doing this, and you decide you don't want to listen, and then you realize you should have listened, it's just like, well, I don't know what to tell you. They're like, I don't know what it is. And I don't know if that's something that is common within women of color, but I've noticed that,
co-sign. I'm co-signing that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the boys club too. I think what happens is that guys feel entitled in general, but then when you're in an industry where your opinion weighs more than women, off the strength of you're the one that's being promoted, you're the one that's getting the shine, you're the one that's the boss. The way that they look at us is as a supporting figure, and not as the person making the decisions, the one that's keeping the ball rolling.
And I think what tends to happen is when others see that you are smart and that you can talk that talk, I think people get intimidated, right? And then sometimes people try to plan on your downfall, which sucks to have to even go through that, because, again, we're stronger as a team. Like, I'm here to help you guys. I'm not here to compete. We all have the same goal. And so people get intimidated when they see that you can talk that talk probably better than them. It doesn't happen in every situation. I have noticed now that people are definitely starting to value women more, and they're starting to want that female on their team to help take them to the next level, or whatever that might look like. I think, and then I was gonna say, I think, and then it goes back to like, there can only be one. And it's like, no, that's not the case. I hate that. There can only be one token Black girl, or there can only be one woman. And it's like, no, you probably need to replace everybody.
Listen, I'm creating a girls club. Just like there's a boys club, I'm creating a girls club for us in this industry, so we can lift each other up, because it doesn't serve the powerful to remove themselves or to co-sign these things. That's because that means that they have to give up their power, But like I said earlier, there's power in numbers. So the more of us that there are, the like we can make some real things happen. So I love everything that you said. You're so accurate in all of that. Like I've experienced it, and I'm sure many of the listeners have as well. So in what ways can women of color advocate for one another? I mean, like we talked about saying each other's names in rooms. We talked about just making sure that we empower each other to speak up. But what ways do you advocate for women of color?
I would definitely say, I mean, for starters, most people that I work with are women of color. I feel like one of my purposes is to bring back any opportunity that I'm receiving here in LA, any opportunity that I receive. My purpose is to bring that back home to the people that I have built relationships with in Atlanta. Most of those creators are women of color, so it's not like I prefer to work with certain people, but I think it just goes back to the fact that we just work harder. We just work harder. I think if you're genuine and you're open, then you notice that most women are willing to collaborate. Most women are willing to be open. Most women are willing to answer any questions that you have or just be there to help. And I think it just starts with like putting yourself out there. I think it starts with not having that pre-notion that, oh, well, she does this, so she Hollywood or she's no, like you're no better than me and I'm no better than you. So it's like I would definitely say just I was a part of a nonprofit called Women in Music, and
Yeah.
so they are headquartered in New York, but we launched the official Atlanta chapter back in like 2017, and so I was able to meet all kinds of women, being a part of that group and just hearing everyone's stories, being able to put on events where you're essentially like bridging the gap between all these women who are in the industry that live in Atlanta. Like where, there's a question of like, where is everybody? It's like, oh, we're here. And if you ever need anything or that we have a whole Google group where you can put in a question or ask for something or ask for a contact. And I've gotten a lot of connections just through that alone. Let's see. There's another group I'm a part of that my friend Janicia, she works at Interscope. Shout out to her. She's been
She's gonna be I'm interviewing her this week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's my
Janicia
homie. Yeah, that's my homie.
Yes. Aries. Me and her have the same birthday. It's so funny.
Oh, see? Yeah. Yeah, we went to Summit Forward concert together. That's Heather Lowry's initiative with Live Nation.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically just a production of music for female artists.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah. And so she introduced me to this group. Oh my God, what is it called? It's slipping my mind. The Black Monarch, I want to say. Yeah, she's the founder. But her thing is called The Plug. But essentially, we'll do these roundtables like once a month. And most of everyone on the call are women of color. And Olivia, she'll do like email blasts with different like job opportunities in the industry, and I'll see those emails come through on a weekly basis. But we just started doing this roundtable where anybody can kind of speak, but it's really like a free, no judgment space. And the last one we did was so incredible. Girl, she got on there and started kind of expressing her challenges of working. I think she was working in film as an assistant, and just about how she was being treated at work. And she started crying, and it was just this whole thing. And it was just crazy to see, like, we're not alone, right? We're all going through some shit. And then two, because there's this community where we can express ourselves and in turn get feedback on it, get advice about what to do and how to move, get encouragement, words of encouragement, and be uplifted. Yeah, shout out to Olivia, because that is just, I'm so thankful that Janicia made that introduction, because that's really something that we need. We need more of that. We need more of those conversations. We need to be able to vent We need to have a comfortable space where we can vent and essentially get it off of our chest, get it off of our shoulders so that we can move on and move forward. So yeah, definitely.
So I'm appreciative of you being part of this podcast because that is something that seems to create some type of ripple effect. People don't realize that they, had this much to say. They didn't have realize that they had these challenges or they were just carrying this with them every day. So to say that other people can relate to those experiences as well as you're not alone in this, it's so important. Yes, absolutely. Like having those channels to create safe spaces for us is crucial. So I appreciate you being on the show and I appreciate you sharing your insight and your knowledge and expressing how you came into the industry. You're also giving some real solid advice to people coming in to the business on what to expect. So what can we expect from you, Adrienne, in the future? What projects are you working on at the moment that excite you?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. And I'm so sad that this is ending. Like, I really want to keep going. But we can definitely connect offline, like here in LA.
For sure. Without a question. You already know.
Okay, cool. So thank you again. Working on Jordan Peele's Nope movie, which is super, super exciting. I'm so ready for that to come out. It'll be out in July, but we are still getting all the music and stuff together for that. So that has been a bit of a roller coaster. Outside of that, we just got the green light to work on Zeus' 4th show, which is going to be Baddies. And so I know the first and this is their second season. So the first season we did Baddies ATL. Second season, I'm not sure where they're gonna be, but that's definitely something to stay tuned for. I know Zeus has been getting a lot of controversy with Jocelyn and everything that she has going the Puerto Rican world. Yeah, so outside of music, I have been producing a number of TV shows. We actually just had a show get picked up by Amazon that we will be taking music for soon and doing a number of things within that production. But yeah, I'm shopping a number of TV shows. I've noticed that since I've started this, people will reach out to me randomly about how they're working on a show or a script, and they'll ask for my help, and I'm like, okay, look at me. So it's just, I had someone tell me the other day, like, oh, you do film and music? Not many people can do both. And I'm like, do you not know Jamie Foxx or Will Smith? Like these, and I think it goes to show, like, there's no limit, right? You can do if you want to do it and you believe that you can do it, then it's yours. It's yours to make happen. And it's believing in yourself and taking the action. And honestly, from there, it's stuff, you'll notice that stuff will start to fall into place for sure.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Where can people connect with you if they want to reach out?
You can call me now. Instagram. I would say Instagram is probably, I'm always checking my Instagram. I don't respond to everybody because if I did, I would get nothing done. But I would say Instagram, you can shoot me a message, you leave me a comment. That's Miss ms.reeves, REEBES on Instagram. I'm actually also about to get started on this content for TikTok. So you might not see me as active on Instagram because I'm moving over to TikTok. But yeah, you can ask for my email. I give out my number often. So I try to connect with as many people as possible. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well, again, I just want to thank you for being on the show. And until next time.
Thank you so much. This was a blast.
Remember, stay positive, inspired, and true to yourself. Go out there and kill it. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Pub Royalty Queen Podcast.